Hey, welcome back to this 10 Good Minutes. I wanted to talk today about kayfabe and the way kayfabe, I think, is understood and perhaps misunderstood on the internet and where people talk in public. And it occurs to me that the kayfabe is this idea, it's this sort of scripted game that you see in a wrestling match, right? And there's the face, which is kind of the good guy. There's the heel, which is the bad guy, and they kind of do this kind of dance. And ultimately, the good guy wins and the heel loses. And it's very complicated and pretty complex, but it is incumbent upon the wrestlers that they are to sort of keep in character. Kind of think of it this way, that these people are playing out some kind of role in fairly conventional good versus bad ways. But kayfabe has taken on this notion that it's fake, right? And so I remember as a young boy being a huge then WWE fan, sorry, WWF, it became WWE. And, I saw the first Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania. We got it on pay per view. It was a really big deal. And I've been thinking a lot about that because I was a normal kid, but I loved wrestling, and we did play kind of footsie with, is it real or is it not real? And of course, most of us understood that it wasn't real in the same way that, I don't know, watching the Detroit Pistons take on the Chicago Bulls, or the Lakers take on the Celtics, right? We knew that it was a little different. We were also huge Mike Tyson fans, and so when Mike Tyson went into the ring and would, within seconds, on a couple of occasions, knock out his opponent, we didn't hover around. We didn't consider that it was in any way fabricated. It was not, and again, I didn't know this word kayfabe back when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, but, there was not this sense. But with wrestling, of course, we did. But we were, using this word on purpose, we were religious observers of WWF. There was Roddy Piper and Kamala and the Ultimate Warrior, and there was Hulk Hogan, of course, and Mean Gene Okerlund, who would orchestrate these sort of grudge matches before and after the actual scripted performances in the ring. Right, sort of this commentator element, and of course there was Miss Elizabeth and all the various cast of characters. But we were deeply invested in seeing how the story was going to unfold, and we felt that we were part of that story. Never asked too many questions about how that worked, but that was the way that we saw it. And so we knew that wrestling was a different kind of thing, but it was very effective in grabbing our attention. Right. So in online spaces now and in social media, I use this idea all the time with kayfabe, or, oh, that's just kayfabe, or that. But I've really been trying to think a little bit more deeply about what kayfabe is and what is the relationship between kayfabe, and maybe we can think of kayfabe as a kind of participatory narrative formation. How are how sorry, what does professional wrestling teach us about reality? Right? We tend to think of it the other way, or, professional wrestling is not like reality, therefore it's fake. And so then, of course, you can ask questions like, well, what exactly is reality in the first place? And so I was thinking about the various characters that we see in professional wrestling. And full disclosure, I do not follow WWE. It's just not my thing anymore. But it's still alive and kicking, and it goes really well. And there are a couple of great YouTube videos you can watch about this. But um, the idea of assuming a character and playing into a role is, I think, an important one. And in part, I think of, what is real about me? I am, as you all know, I'm a high school teacher, and so I put on my tie in the morning. I walk into class. I grab a piece of chalk. I grab, the novel of the day, and I give a quiz. And I insist that everybody call me Mr. Zeldin. And now, of course, now that I'm beyond the age of 50, it's a little bit easier to assume the role. But I do remember being 23 or 22 or 23 years old and having to sort of play this role of Mr. Zeldin. And it was, fictional, insofar as it was not what I was most comfortable being. Though with practice and repetitions, and through the goodwill of many of my early students, they helped me believe in this role that I was playing as, Mr. Zeldin. And I think it got me to go sort of a little bit more deeply. Well, there was nothing fake about me playing the role of Mr. Zeldin back in 1995 when I first started teaching classes. Um, it wasn't fake exactly, but it was sort of like I don't use this expression, but it was kind of a lie agreed upon. Like I was playing the role of Mr. Zeldin, and my students were playing the role of students, and we kind of made it work. We kind of memed it into existence, and so it started to get me to think, well, in what other areas do we do this kind of um, faking something into reality? And I was thinking about as a kid, I played on, a group of us got together and we wore yellow jerseys and black pants, and we played against my friends from across the neighborhood who were wearing, red shirts and blue shorts, and we would go out to a field and we would mark it with chalk or have someone else mark it with chalk, and we would establish these two posts that we called goal, and we had a ball that we would try to push or kick or pass into these two bars. And once you got past that, you could call it a goal. And when you were playing this game, even though it's totally made up, it doesn't have anything inherent in it. It was all very, very real, right? In other words, we faked this coordinated group activity into such a way that I really, really wanted to score the goal. I really wanted to make sure that we won and the other team didn't win. And when we lost, it hurt. Just like when we won, it was generative. It was opening up. It was glorious. It felt very real. And so then, you think of, when, a young man, who makes a pilgrimage from Hibbing, Minnesota, and arrives in New York City and goes to see his longtime idol Woody Guthrie and introduces himself as Bob Dylan, and then goes on stage with an acoustic guitar that looks a lot like the acoustic guitar of his idol Woody Guthrie, and he straps on a harmonica and announces to the world that he is Bob Dylan. Is that real? When I walked into that classroom for the first time and I called myself Mr. Zeldin and I wrote it on the board, was that real? Is it real when a policeman puts on his uniform and goes out into the community to police? Is that real? What about for a fireman? What about for a priest? Anybody who dresses up for a living understands that in a real way, it's all fake. And so, if we can think of kayfabe as a kind of participatory narrative formation, this thing that we play together in order to manifest the real, I think you can start to understand that kayfabe is not fake, it's not a lie, but it is rather a kind of generative play. Now, if it is in fact malicious, if you have people dressing up and tricking other people or being evasive, I wouldn't call that kayfabe. I would call that astroturfing. Something that you inflict upon someone. It's life sucking. it's malignant. And so maybe for our conversations moving forward, we can think of generative play as kayfabe, and we can think of malignant, evasive trickery play as a version of astroturfing. That is perhaps a kind of a scripted lie. More on that perhaps in the next video. But hovering all around this conversation, right, is the real. What is real? And I think we underestimate the power of kayfabe in bringing something real into existence. And I'm going to sort of say this, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, but we sometimes hear folks say, "When two or more are gathered in my name, then there I am." And I think we underestimate the role of group play as a formative real creating experience. All right, like and subscribe, all that nice stuff. I appreciate you, and I'll be back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus here for vacation, but until next time, friends, don't worry so much about kayfabe. Just make sure that it is generative, it is productive, it is world creating. Cheers.